Okay, go down.
नहीं अमित नहीं है उन्होंने Hi, excuse me. Sorry to bother you. I just wanted to come over and say I really like your jumpsuit.
Up in the entire
So I should tell my name to everyone?
No, it's just you, only to the beautiful.
What is so special about you?
Do you want to do cold approach? Do you want to make the process of approaching a completely random girl easy for you? Maybe you've done a few approaches, maybe you have never done any approach. It really does not matter, because in this video, I'm going to break down how you can make cold approach extremely easy for you. If you're an introvert or a beginner at approaching women, don't worry, because what I'm going to share with you is my 10 years of knowledge condensed in about 10 minutes. I am going to teach you how you can approach random people by breaking it down into simple steps that you can use when you're going out. Now, whatever I'm going to share with you today comes from deep personal experience of me actually going out and testing these theories one by one. And also, not only testing it on my own dating life, but also testing it with thousands of other men who have gotten mind-blowing success just by applying these theories. So you can say that you're in safe hands. Now I'm trying to condense a decade worth of knowledge on how you can actually do those approaches in simple steps. One thing I want to make clear before we go on to the steps is I can give you all the knowledge, I can tell you how to attract her, I can give you all the techniques, but there's one thing that you need to do, which is grow balls. That's something that I can't do for you. You actually have to implement this knowledge, you have to go out and execute this knowledge. Now, back in the day when I was in Singapore, I landed across cold approach. I was super excited. I wanted to learn this skill, and I had realized that, okay, this is a skill-based thing, which means if I keep on putting the effort, I'm going to learn this fast. But at the end of the day, I did not have the courage to approach. I was so socially introverted. I'll add a picture over here so you can see how I looked like. And I had extreme self-doubt when it used to come to appearance, because I was in a new place. I was in Singapore. There's 6'3" tall Australian guys I thought I had to compete against. And I was always thinking that I had to compete against so many men because I have to approach a woman. But that's the wrong mindset to go about it, because what you'll realize when you start approaching is not a lot of men actually approach women. Very few men approach women, and statistically speaking, it's I think around less than 10% of men have approached a woman in the last year. So you need to know that women don't have that kind of a pool to judge your approach against. So you might be thinking, hey, I have to compete with all these men, but at the end of the day, you're only competing with your own self. You only have to battle with your own thoughts, your own fears, and your own worst beliefs. When you're learning this, you need to be proud of yourself regardless the result. You need to understand this is a more process-oriented thing rather than a result-oriented thing. So I want you to think about this. Imagine you get out there. You're playing for your friends, you're really enjoying the moment, and you're playing the best tunes that you have. You're just having so much fun, you're so much into it. Are you worrying about how your friends might think? Are you worrying about creating the fastest song in the world in that point of time? The same thing happens with cold approach. You cannot think too much about the outcome, because once you attach yourself to a certain outcome, there are certain expectations. And when you're doing approaches, you're actually dealing with humans, you're dealing with something that is the external, it's not the internal. And that can make your approach go not as expected. And once things don't go as expected, your emotional state falls down, because you feel bad about yourself. You start taking things personally. So when you're learning about cold approach, a quick tip would be do not take anything personally. Always understand that it's a more process-oriented thing. That means that once you start enjoying the process becomes very easy. But to get to that stage where you're actually enjoying the process, you need some positive outcomes, some positive responses from women to actually feel that the process is working. So what I'm going to share with you today is the step-by-step breakdown on how you can make approaching extremely easy for you. And if you're an introvert or a beginner, I would suggest following all these steps without thinking too much in the future, without thinking that I want to make a good approach, I want the girl to laugh, I want to have a conversation with the girl. Rather than that, just focus on the steps that I'll be sharing with you today. Step 1, wear your big boy shoes and get out of your house. Now, you might be thinking, hey man, why are you telling me to do this? Because one thing I realized, I've been taking a lot of sales calls recently because I really want to get in touch with the clients. I really want to get in touch with your problems. And because of that, I've realized that 90% of the guys don't have any movement in their lives. If you're a working professional, you're probably going to the office, or maybe if you're working from home, that's even worse, because you have deducted all movement from your life. You're living a life where you're just in the passive state in terms of movement. You need to add movement back into your life. And I've been talking to a lot of men. Guys from corporates, guys from MNCs, guys who have their own startups, entrepreneurs who are at a very high level. One thing I've realized is you guys think that you don't have enough time to go out. But the reality is that you're being passive once you're done with your work. You're so lethargic. You're coming at home and you're like, hey man, I really don't want to go out. I don't want to do any approaches, because you think it's anyway not going to work. So why would I invest my time putting my big boy shoes, going outside and approaching some girls? It's not going to work. Or maybe even if it works, it's going to be too time and energy consuming, which means that I have to invest so much time in actually talking to a girl, which I really don't want to do. I would rather watch some Netflix and chill out. But that's the wrong mindset to have. And that is exactly the mindset I had when I started out. It is a fear-based mindset towards the end because you're fearing the unknown or you're fearing actually going out and socializing. But that is one key change that you need to bring. So that is step one. Wear your shoes, get out of your house. Step two is you go and do the first approach the moment you reach the place. Now, if you're using public transport, you're using metro, you're using a bus, whatever, you go and do the first approach as soon as you see the person. Instead, as soon as you spot the person, you do the first approach. Now you can do the approach in many ways. Now you can ask her opinion. You can go and use a compliment. You can go and ask a question. Maybe you can ask some directions. Now, I'll give you certain things that you can apply right now so that you can copy these lines and you can use them when you're doing the approaches. Now, if I'm using a compliment, I would use compliments that work on everyone so that I don't have to think about these compliments when I'm actually doing the approach. For example, I can just go ahead and say, hey, I really love your style. Hey, I love the way you carry yourself. Hey, I love that outfit. Where did you get it from? Now, this is for the compliment. Now, in my personal opinion, giving the compliment is the best thing. But if you're an introverted guy and you're doing this for the first time, if you think the compliment is a little bit too extreme, remember progressive desensitization. Now, what do I mean by that is you slowly expand your comfort zone. So go out there and ask for some directions. Now, the mindset that you need to have when you're asking for directions is very basic. And what I think is, if I'm left alone in a new country and the girl is the only person in front of me and I have to go to XYZ restaurant, will I ask her for directions or will I just wander around? Of course, I would ask her for directions. So, if you're kept in a new country, you would do the same. So just have that kind of a mindset whenever you're asking for directions. And ask for directions, you might just open a conversation. But remember that you don't want to be dependent on any outcome, whether it's positive reactions from the girl's side or it's getting into a conversation. Right now, the only objective is to do the approach. That's the criteria for success. Step 3 is adding a compliment. Now, if you've not done it in step 2, if you've not approached by giving a compliment, this is the step that you need to ask, because if you don't add step 3, the conversation is not going to go anywhere. You're going to ask for directions, she's going to tell you the directions, and then you're going to go there. So the conversation is not going to go to a romantic direction. And if you want to take a conversation to a romantic direction, it's very important that you tell the woman why you're there, because you're actually interested in her. So this is how you show intent. And now initially, for me, when I started out, I had this past trauma with a girl in 9th grade. I had asked her out in front of the whole school and she rejected me. She rejected my offer and I took it so personally that once I learned about cold approach, I still couldn't do the approach. I still couldn't give the compliment to the girl because I had that past trauma holding me back. So if you have certain past traumas which are holding you back, you need to understand, let them be in the past. Now it's time to move on. The event that you had in the past and your response to it gave you a certain outcome. When I was in 9th grade, I didn't know how to talk to women. But turning 17, when I started doing all of this, going to a real world scenario like a bar or a daytime location like a mall or a shopping street, the situation is kind of different. The event is not the same. The response that I have to this event is not going to be the same because now I'm much more knowledgeable. So the outcome is going to change, and that's how you need to think about it. Rather than letting your past traumas control you, think about it. If you give the compliment, the girl is going to know why you're there, and that's the only way to carry the conversation forward. But for introverts, I would also recommend doing it progressively, which basically means unless and until you're comfortable with step 2 or with step 1, you don't proceed to the step 3. So once you're comfortable initiating some conversations, whether it's with the pretext of asking for some directions or whether it's with the pretext of giving some compliments, only then proceed to the next step. Now, once you've given the compliment, you've shown the girl why you're actually there because you're attracted to her. Now, the 4th step is you introducing yourself. Now, whenever you're approaching a woman, what's going on in the woman's mind? She's thinking, who is this guy? What does he want from me? How much time is he going to take? So you need to tell her who you are, because that's going to build a lot of comfort and trust, because now she knows who she's talking to. So just go ahead and introduce yourself. Now, the way I introduce myself is, hey, I'm so sorry I forgot to introduce myself. My name is Arunav. Now, 3 things that you can take away with the way I introduce myself is my body language is submissive. My eye contact is going to be deep. I'm going to have a smirk or a smile on my face. I'm going to take a step back while I'm doing that. Now, doing all of these things will make sure that the woman gives you a positive response. Now, step 5 is fairly simple. All you need to do is ask her a question to extend that conversation so that you can build a deeper relationship. And you don't have to overthink about this. You don't have to think, what's the best question to ask? You can just ask her a very simple question like, are you from Delhi? Now, what that does is if she says, no, I'm not, then you can carry the conversation forward by talking about where she's from and how she's finding the city and how's the time going in the particular city. Now, you can ask a question about the city. I generally like to make assumptions about what she does or where she's from or who she is. For example, if a girl is extremely fashionable, I'll tell her, hey, Are you from the fashion industry? You look extremely fashionable. Now, when I'm doing this, the same principle applies. The more engaged you are, the more engaged the girl is going to be. So I'm looking deep into her eyes, I'm having a warm smile on my face, playing with my facial expressions a little bit, and then I'm asking her, are you from Delhi? Now her response opens a way for the conversation. But do not think about the conversation when you're following step 1, step 2, or step 3. Just follow these exact steps, and I'm sure even if you're an introvert or a beginner, you won't have problems in doing the approach. Now this is a completely action-based video, so do not watch any other video until you implement what you learn in this. Now once you've implemented this, once you've started doing some approaches, I have a bunch of techniques that I share on my YouTube channel, and you can check out each video, you can get deeper into it, but first you need to get started. If you have been investing time, if you've been watching a lot of videos on different YouTube channels, different dating coaches giving you different advice, you're just wasting your time. All you need to do is do the first approach. And if you think there's a problem in you going out and doing the approaches alone, there's a community of 900 members, all from around India, all working professionals and entrepreneurs who are actively working on their dating life. And if you want to join that community, click the link below, but also understand that you'll only be accepted in that community if you're a working professional or an entrepreneur. So if you've decided that you want to get this thing done, if you've decided that you want to enjoy the process, you want to learn about cold approach, you want to become a master at it, I would recommend joining our community, which has 900 members from all around India, all working professionals and entrepreneurs working on their dating lives. So click the pinned comment and join the free exclusive community.